My first karate weapons kind of sucked. So in the beginning, when I started karate, I didn't want to spend too much money on buying all these weapons. Eventually, I bought all my own weapons. About 6 months in, I joined the tournament team at the dojo, bought all my own weapons. But in the meantime, I was learning all these kata, weapons kata, and I wanted something to practice with at home. So 2 weeks in, after I started, I learned a bow kata, went home, what can I practice with? I liberated my kid's Gandalf staff, so a broom handle with fancy duct tape. At the time. It had this fancy decorative knob on the end. It looked like a gem. It's really cute. And then it had a strip of leather with a feather on it. So my kid wasn't playing with this anymore. It was an older toy. So I adopted this. It became mine. It was passed down to me. How sweet. I still use this. For a long time, this was the only thing I used at home. Now I have a proper bow, which is definitely better than this. It's, this isn't the right length or weight, but in a pinch, if you need something to practice with, like just find something that you have at home. There's no shame in using household objects, do-it-yourself stuff, making weapons on a budget so that you can actually do your training. So again, I still use this. I use this in the kitchen. It's great in my kitchen because it's small. I'm not going to bash anything. But I'll tell you a funny story at the end, so stick around for that. Speaking of bashing things, but I can do, in the middle of cooking, I can run through a kata, I can do my bow basics, lean it back against the wall, go back to cooking. So no shame and super, super helpful. My next 2 weapons, not so helpful, and I have not, I've stopped using them. Okay, so the second one, I learned a nunchuck kata. I don't have my first nunchucks anymore, but I have a picture. Yeah, I took an old skipping rope from one of my kids. We weren't using it anymore, and I cut it, shortened it, and made a thoroughly inadequate pair of nunchucks. Yeah, it was not helpful for running through a kata, not the right weight, length, totally wrong, and I ended up just laughing the whole time I used these. And more than anything, having these motivated me to buy proper nunchucks. But yeah, so that's fun, right? It's fun. But again, no shame in coming up with some substitute that you can afford, that you have lying around the house on a budget, right? No shame in that. So third weapon, now teko. I only know one teko kata. I haven't bought a set of teko. I don't even really like the kata, so I can't justify spending money on teko. Maybe in future, if I learned other teko kata or other techniques, I might consider it. But for now, all I have, which I don't really use. Okay, but we're okay at first. Pastry blenders, pastry cutters. Now this is the pastry cutter that we use at home when we're making dough. It's the right shape. It's not the right, it's too long here, right? You want something closer to your knuckles. It's too big for me, but in a pinch, for running through techniques, for running through a kata, remembering the movements, having something that just feels similar, that mimics that feeling, can be really, really helpful. I bought this like super cheap set so I could have a pair. I should have bought more of these. These are better, but even so, yeah, not ideal, not as good as the proper ones, but in a pinch, and if you can't afford it, why not, right? Why not? And certainly this one, these are really flimsy and soft. You couldn't hurt anybody. But these ones, you could actually hurt somebody. So, practicing a kata at home, though, where you're not hurting anybody, it's totally fine to use a pastry cutter. So yeah, those are my first 3 weapons. But the funny story now about my substitute bow is I was practicing for my first tournament. I competed in my first tournament as a white belt. I competed in kata and weapons kata. So I was practicing a lot and really flinging this thing around. It must have been soon after I learned the kata, it was a week in, and I signed up for my first tournament. And then maybe a week after that, I learned the kata. And so I was practicing this a lot. The first time I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna be competing. I gotta work really hard. So I was flinging this thing around in my kitchen, and I didn't even think that the glue, so that knob that was originally there was glued down. The glue, it's old, right? The glue was wearing away, and the knob flew out of the end of it. Just missed my head. Just missed my kitchen window. It came about that close to breaking my kitchen window because I had done some movement where I flipped it, or I can't even remember what the movement was, but I flipped the bow, flipped the Gandalf staff, the knob flew out, just about killed me and my house and everything on this earth. So I do not recommend using a Gandalf staff that has a gem in it, a decorative gem. The feather also tickled. It would fly past my face, and it was a bit of a pain in the ass, so I cut that off. But yeah, be careful. Weapons can hurt people, especially wizard weapons. So yeah, that's my funny story. But again, no shame in coming up with something that you can afford, that you can use at home for running through your kata, your techniques. I'd love to hear your stories though. Any funny stories about first weapons, do-it-yourself stuff that you've made at home, any funny stories about almost breaking windows or your head. Oh, also, you see this? I made a video, I don't know, a year or two ago. I was doing a bow kata and I was paying attention to the camera and the lighting and everything, and I wasn't paying attention to the wall because like filming makes everything very different. And I was running through bow kata, was my proper bow, and I walloped the wall and broke the drywall. And I've decided to keep it that way because it looks badass, and it kind of reminds me of, I like to be reminded of the stupid things that I do so that I don't do them again. So yeah. Anyway, any funny stories about breaking walls or heads or windows? I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching.